I'm Kaja Sadowski.
I'm Courtney,
and we are the co-owners of Valkyrie Western Martial Arts Assembly. And what we want to talk about today is a video segment that Global News did on March 4th of this year that was a series of easy tips to protect yourself from sexual assault. They brought in an expert by the name of Mark Murdoch from Excel Martial Arts. And normally we applaud the effort to try to address some of these issues, especially with the string of assaults that have happened recently in Vancouver and Burnaby. But the segment itself was terribly flawed. The advice that Mark gave was at best incomplete, and in a lot of cases it was actually outright dangerous. And we feel that it's really important not to mislead the public about their ability to defend themselves and the ways in which they can do that. So what we wanted to do today is respond to what we saw and offer an alternative approach to self-defense. So if you haven't seen the video yet, we've got the link available here. Go ahead and watch it now. So the segment actually started out pretty strong. The first thing that he said was that you have to be aware of what's going on around you, you have to be aware of your surroundings, you have to be prepared. But then that very quickly got glossed over and he went straight into physical responses to an attack that's already happening. And there's actually some very important steps there that were left out. The first is that you have to be aware, obviously, of what's going on around you, how the people around you are behaving, whether you're in an unfamiliar space, whether there are things around you that make you uncomfortable. But most importantly, you have to know where you are. In case you do have to call for help and you have to get assistance, it's much more helpful to be able to say, I'm on the corner of Kingsway and Duchess Street, than I'm on a street and it's dark and I don't know where I am. So you do have to be paying attention to your surroundings in a more concrete way. The second most important thing that got left out was that fact that you can call for help. If you're talking on your phone already with a friend and something starts bothering you or creeping you out, hey Courtney, there's a guy that's following me, I don't know what's going on.
Holy crap, where are you?
I'm at Kingsway and Duchess Street.
Awesome, I will call the police.
Thank you. If you're not already on the phone, make sure that you've got the numbers for both your local emergency and non-emergency police numbers in your phone. And as soon as you start feeling threatened in any way, even if you don't feel that it's worth calling 911 about, you can reach for non-emergency and make sure that somebody knows where you are and that you might be in danger. You shouldn't be thinking right away of how am I going to hit this person after everything has already started. The other thing is that there was a really interesting conflation that happened between social violence, which is when somebody wants to intimidate you, or when somebody wants to frighten you, or when somebody wants to show off to their friends and explain how tough they are, and asocial violence, which is when somebody doesn't care about any of that and just wants to do you harm. Now, the context of this segment was a number of sexual assaults that have happened recently in Vancouver, and those are not social violence situations. When somebody grabs you and they want to sexually assault you, they're not trying to intimidate you, they're not trying to make you sad. If they're on their own, they're not trying to impress their buddy over there, they want to do you harm. And the only appropriate response in a context like that is to hurt them back. You're not trying to keep them at bay. You're not trying to make them change their mind. You're not trying to inconvenience them. You are going to have to make them stop hurting you, and the only way that you can do that is by hurting them back. And the thing that we really saw in the segment that concerned us in that context was that it made a lot of assumptions about the mindset of the attacker. It talked about how the attacker doesn't want to get hurt. It talked about how the attacker doesn't want things to take very long, or that he doesn't want to get caught. Those are very dangerous assumptions to make. The only thing you know about this person is that they want to do you harm. You don't know what their threshold is for stopping. You don't know if they've only got 10 minutes and then they have to be somewhere else. And you can't assume that you can simply inconvenience them a little bit and they're gonna leave. They expect a struggle. They're going to expect some kind of a response from you, and a little bit of flailing around or a little bit of trying to pull away is probably not going to be enough. So the techniques that were being demonstrated and the approach that was being given in this video was inconvenience the attacker enough that he's going to change his mind. And that's simply not an assumption that you can make.
So there were a couple of specific techniques or comments in the video that also got us quite angry, frankly. The first one was the comment that there was a question from one of the reporters of, well, what happens if someone comes up and grabs me from behind? And the response was, well, the important thing to remember is that they can't do much to you from behind. So we've put together a little compilation here of some of the, you know, not so nice things that can happen to you if someone grabs you from behind. The other thing was, actually the first thing that, that was suggested as get away from me was put your hands up so he can't see your face. Now I also can't see his face or what's happening, or why do we care if he can't see my face, because that's dumb.
Somebody is coming in to assault you and you put your hand up in front of their face. Oh my God, that really stopped me. It's a thing that actually makes you more vulnerable because you're blocking your own line of sight and you're also giving them things to grab onto.
So really what the issue here is that this as a response is great for social violence. If some guy's coming up to you at the bar and won't go away, then yes, you know, putting a hand in his face is probably gonna do the trick. If he's trying to rape you in an alley, no.
So what we really want to do today is provide some solid alternatives to this not so good advice that was given that can really help keep you safe. And the very first and most important thing that we already touched on a little bit is preparedness. Yes, you have to be aware of your surroundings. Yes, you have to be listening to and looking at what's going on around you. But the important thing is the specifics. Know where you are, know where you're going, know who you can contact if you get in trouble. That could be a friend, a partner, 911, or a local non-emergency line. Any way that you can get help in a bad situation should be something that you already know how to do before you end up somewhere unsafe. The second thing is that you have to be prepared to actually act when you feel unsafe. If somewhere is too dark or too empty or just kind of gives you the willies and you don't want to go through a particular space, let yourself listen to that and change your route. Or call somebody and let them know where you are so that there's somewhere to find you if things go wrong. If somebody is making you feel uncomfortable, if you feel like somebody is watching you or following you, again, listen to that and call or reach out to somebody who can help you, or just get out of there as quickly as possible. If you do find yourself in a situation there where you're being confronted, you need to figure out what kind of a context it is. Is it a social situation where somebody is trying to intimidate you or trying to get something from you? In which case you can try to de-escalate it if that's something that you feel comfortable doing, and you can deal with it through speech. Or is it an asocial situation where somebody is just trying to hurt you? If that's the case, then you have to react physically. Nobody is going to listen to you saying no. Nobody is going to listen to you just kind of trying to wave them away or distract them. You're going to have to fight back, and you have to give yourself permission to do that and to hurt them if you need to, because it'll keep you alive.
So when it comes to that asocial violence situation, there are two things that you need to focus on: targeting and intention. When it comes to intent, the main thing is to hit what you're hitting as hard as you possibly can. You need to make those hits count. As far as targeting goes, you want to hit something that will hurt a lot. Eyes, throat, knees are great, and we're going to be showing you a few examples of how to hit them. So it was a very brief overview of a couple of techniques that are useful. There's only so much that you can show in 5 minutes on the internet, so please don't just take this video and run with it. Do seek out and take a self-defense course from an accredited instructor of some kind, preferably a course that's multiple days. You just can't get in enough repetition and practice if it's a 2-hour thing.
So a few things to look for in such a course, beyond making sure that the instructor actually has a relevant background or relevant certification, is you want to make sure that it covers the full scope of self-defense. You don't just want to go somewhere that teaches you how to hit somebody real good. You want to make sure that they look at some of the legal aspects of self-defense in wherever you live, and how use of force is governed in general. You want to make sure that they talk about the context of violence, how to approach it, how to de-escalate scenarios that can be de-escalated, how to be prepared, how to deal more broadly with your safety than just getting out of the fight. Once you do get into the physical techniques, you want to make sure that you've got enough time to really practice and get some repetitions in. A course that shows you how to do 5 things but gives you an hour and a half to practice them is much better than one that shows you how to do 30 things and lets you try each of them once. If possible, if you have access to a place that actually does scenario work or some kind of simulations, that's a really excellent plus, and I highly recommend it if it's something that you can find in your area. And if you've got any questions or any feedback on what you saw today or about women's self-defense or martial arts or any of those topics more broadly, you can reach us through our website or by phone or by email, and all of our contact info is listed below this video.